So let's talk about Hong Kong. It's one of the wealthiest, most dazzling cities on the planet. But we're going to look past that glittering skyline. We're going to look at a hidden reality. A housing crisis that has forced hundreds of thousands of people into spaces so small, they're actually called coffin homes. And we're about to see exactly what that means.
16 square feet. That's the average size we're talking about here. Now, to really get a sense of that, picture a standard parking spot. It's smaller. It's smaller than a lot of walk-in closets. It's really just enough space to lie down, and that's about it.
So, what exactly is a coffin home? Well, think of a wooden box, kind of like a bunk bed, but fully enclosed. They're stacked on top of each other, crammed inside an illegally subdivided apartment. And for the person living in one, that tiny space isn't just their bedroom, it's their entire world. It's their living room, their kitchen, their storage, everything, all in one.
I mean, the physical reality of it is just brutal. There's no room for the most basic movements. You can't sit up straight in many of them, let alone stand up. It's a life lived almost completely horizontally, confined to the space of a box.
But what does that really feel like, day in and day out? Let's take a closer look at the actual environment, the conditions that people are forced to live with every single day. So, how do these spaces even get created? It's pretty shocking, actually. Landlords will take a normal apartment floor and literally slice it in half horizontally, putting in a new floor halfway up the wall. This creates two levels with ceilings so low you couldn't possibly stand. It's totally illegal, but it's a way for them to double the number of tenants and, of course, double their profit. And the daily consequences are, well, they're grim. The air is thick and polluted, sometimes measured at 4 times higher than safe levels. There are usually no windows, so there's no sunlight, no fresh air, and no escape from the smells or the suffocating heat. You've got overloaded power strips everywhere, which is a constant fire hazard. And on top of all that, infestations of bedbugs and cockroaches are just a relentless part of life. And look, this isn't some rare, isolated problem. We're talking about an estimated 200,000 people, men, women, and even entire families with children living this way across Hong Kong. That is a staggering number of people hidden away inside one of the richest cities in the world. But a number like that, it's easy to get lost in it. The real story, the true human cost, is found in the people themselves. We really need to hear from them to understand. Take Mei Li, for example. She's a part-time cleaner, and she talks about the constant physical agony of bedbugs. It's a plague in these homes, something that just never, ever stops. For her, and for so many others, there is literally no escape from being bitten.
And then you have Frankie Chow. Someone asked him about his future, about where he sees himself in 10 years. His answer? I'll be dead by then. That just speaks to this complete and utter loss of hope. For so many, the coffin home isn't a temporary stop. It feels like a life sentence, the final destination.
And then there's John. He's lived like this for 18 years. 18 years. The severe lack of space has caused his muscles to waste away so much that he's now afraid to even walk. His entire world has shrunk to the size of his TV screen. It's a life of total isolation and physical decay, all because he's trapped inside these 4 walls. So this just leads to the biggest question of all. Why? Why would anyone choose to live like this? Well, the simple answer is they don't. This isn't about choice. This is purely about economics. Let's just go back to Emily's budget for a second. She earns about $650 a month from her job. The rent for that tiny pest-infested box, $320. That's almost half of every single dollar she makes, just for a shelf to sleep on. So what about the alternative? Just rent a normal apartment? Well, it's just not possible. To rent even a basic 1-bedroom apartment would cost around $4,000 a month. For Emily, and for thousands like her, that's not just out of reach, it might as well be on another planet. And this is the stat that just breaks your brain. The dream of actually owning a home? It's a fantasy. For someone earning minimum wage, buying even a modest apartment is mathematically impossible. The idea of social mobility, of working your way up, here, the ladder is just completely broken.
So how did things get this bad? This crisis didn't just happen overnight. It's the result of a perfect storm of geography, economics, and just staggering inequality.
Okay, so let's break down why this is happening. First off, Hong Kong has been the world's most expensive housing market for 14 straight years. There's very little land to actually build on. You have extreme wealth concentrated in the hands of a tiny group of people. And the safety net, public housing, the waiting list is over 10 years long. There's just nowhere for people to go. And if you need one single fact to understand just how bad this is, here it is. In Hong Kong, a convicted criminal in a prison cell gets 80 square feet of space. That is 5 times more space than a law-abiding rent-paying citizen gets in a coffin home. 5 times.
This extreme lack of space for the living leads you to a pretty unsettling question. If a city can't even find a dignified place for its citizens while they're alive, what on earth happens when they die?
Well, the grim reality is that in Hong Kong, the space crisis follows you right to the grave. The final chapter of a person's life is often just as cramped, just as undignified as the life they were forced to live. $128,000. That was the recent price for a single burial plot. Owning a tiny piece of land for your final rest has become a luxury that almost no one can afford. It's arguably even more impossible than buying a home. So for most people, here's what happens. A grave is rented for just 6 years. After that time is up, the body is dug up and cremated. And the final resting place? A tiny drawer in a massive wall, a space that's no bigger than a shoebox. It's a haunting echo of the coffin homes where so many of them spent their lives.
Now, the government has acknowledged this is a huge problem, and they've set a goal to end the crisis. But their target date is 2049. For the 200,000 people living like this right now, 2049 might as well be 1,000 years away.
And that's what it all comes down to, right? We're left with this one final, unavoidable question. When people are forced to live and die in spaces smaller than a prison cell, what does that really say about the society that allows it to happen? In a city with so much wealth, what is the actual value of a human life?